One of the special traditions of LCS Commencement is that the class selects one of their teachers to teach them one last time. Our speaker tonight graduated from Lakeland Christian School, received his bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida, and Master's of Arts in History from American Public University. He joined the LCS faculty in 2010. To present the charge to the class, Mr. Erik.
All right, folks. Look, we're short on time. You know how this works, so it's got to come at you hot and heavy like a bison in the summer, okay? Now, hey, look, fast forward 40 years ago, okay, you heard the story of a man and his coconut. Get excited, because the answer has come. Okay, he's been sitting in that freezer for 40 years. It's a sad story, really. It's not as exciting as it makes sound out there. But you heard that story, man, we had a really good 4 years. We heard lessons about unicorns in ninth grade. That was a great time. I still didn't finish that one, so I'll have to finish it later on for you. But we told jokes about French people, Poland, Ohio, the three greatest tragedies on the planet. Look, we saw a muffin eating competition this year that was entertaining and so disgusting. We took jabs at Lincoln the Pretender. We also, some of us saw the impossible. Now, not all of you were there, so I need to tell you, we saw something impossible, and that was Reese jumping. Look, none of us thought he could do it. And if you're honest, you don't think so. His family still doesn't think he can jump. But look, we saw him do an athletic feat. Several of us saw it, and it was astounding. Okay, those 4 years. I'm sorry, man. Those 4 years. It was pretty good. If you recall, I haven't seen you in a while, so if you recall, a few months ago, one of the bonus questions on the test asked you what your expectations were in life, right? You had a list of you for kicks and giggles. Well, look, the top 5 responses are as follows. First, to have a family. Yeah, predictable, right? To have a good job was number 2, lots of money. To have lots of pets was number 3. Now look, dogs won out easily, but there was, Kylie wants $1 million, by the way. She put down $1 million. There was a mention of an alpaca, and I know there is one bunny person out there as well, so bunnies are also in that running. Number 4, travel the world, and number 5 was to own a home, or as one particular student phrased it, to own a gnarly home. Gnarly. I'm not sure what that looks like. Now, most of the answers don't vary from those 5. Most of you kind of pick the same thing. Some were more specific, picking wastelands to go to, like Ohio, or something like that. There were some notable outliers. For example, one student put down, he wants to have a basement, because the basement is the ultimate status symbol. And that's like anything in Florida. When you think basements are special, you need to get out, right? You need to leave. Another student put down that they wanted to eat a bag of Cheetos in 10 seconds. I'm not sure. No, that's just sad. And a third, you can probably guess, another student wanted to be replaced by a robot. Skynet's going to come, and it's going to be Evan's fault. He's going to ruin it all. All those answers are pretty predictable, and to be honest, I didn't expect the basement answer or the Cheeto answer. That kind of caught me off guard. But the other ones are pretty much predictable from anybody's standpoint. Look, all of us have the same fundamental desires, right? You and I, we have all the same desires, basic desires of love, happiness, security, peace, purpose, dignity, meaning, among various others. And so what we do is we end up spending our lives trying to fulfill those desires. We want love, so we try to seek for a spouse or kids or something, or pets. They're great for love too, right? We want security, we want peace, and so we seek after a well-paying job. We want happiness, so we seek after things like traveling the world or eating Cheetos in 10 seconds. And because of this, okay, we then make it our purpose in life to achieve those particular desires, the things that we think will fulfill us. Our goal in life, we think, is to get a good job, to get married, to own a home, and to retire in some sort of wealth, whatever that may look like. That becomes our purpose and our meaning in life. And that's usually how we define ourselves, and it's usually how we define each other. We're always trying to define ourselves. We're always trying to establish our identity in the world. But in time, usually towards the end of said life, we usually discover that we lived a life that's still filled with unfinished dreams. It's filled with desires that haven't been satisfied really at all, at least not fundamentally so. And they still linger, and they still haunt us. I mean, how many of you actually think you can have a fulfilling and meaningful life, a good life filled with love, joy, and peace, and all that jazz, without the things you mentioned? What if you're poor? So you guys don't know because you're LCS. But what if you're poor? Okay. What if you're the American, or you get divorced? What if you're barren and you can't have kids? What if you're handicapped? Can you still have a good life? Now you know the answer, but do you believe it? I mean, obviously it's yes, but I'm not sure how many of us actually really believe that we can be happy and have joy and fulfillment with that type of living. See, the mistake we make is we think that we're actually capable of getting the good life. But we're not. Okay, we can't get purpose. It must be given to us. We can't get love. It must be given. The basic crisis in our age is the identity crisis, because we think we can get what we want. We tell ourselves the lesson in living is never losing control, and so we define our lives based on our work and our perception of our progress. Am I happy in my job? Am I where I thought I'd be at this age? Am I going to the college I thought I would go to? And people seek for a personal legend. I only mention that because apparently I watch ESPN now, and I happen to see LeBron James, Adam's second father. I saw him talking about reading The Alchemist, and he was talking about how he's trying to seek something else. And he was trying to find his personal legend, even though he thought it was secure. And it epitomizes the age. I can get it if I want it. And a quote from the book, The Alchemist, says, if when you want something, the universe conspires and helping you achieve it. As if it's possible for you to achieve your fulfillment by yourself. Now, there are two ways to define identity. Okay, one is the ontological definition, and one is the functional definition. If we define ourselves ontologically, what we're doing is we're defining ourselves according to our source of being, our very essence. Now, we're made in the image of God, so our essence comes from God. It comes from the moment He breathes into us. However, we live in a world that chooses the functional definition. We live in a world that defines their identity and value and worth according to what they're able to do or whatever they are able to acquire. Thus, if you're lacking in certain things like money or house or spouse, then your value is also lacking. As such, then you're then treated differently. And you see that all the time. And you're given less value in society. The problem with functional definition is twofold. First, it denies that function flows from essence. Our abilities and our achievements aren't our own. The second problem is that function is variable. It constantly changes. What you're able to do now, you won't be able to do when you're older. Sure, Reese can jump now, right? In time, in a year, he's toast. Okay? This is his peak. Because your abilities aren't constant, and because you define yourself according to your abilities, that means your identity won't be constant. It's going to change. It's going to degrade as you degrade. It's part of the justification for euthanasia, assisted suicide, tapering off medical care for the elderly. They don't contribute as much to society anymore. They're not as valuable as they used to be, so why waste drugs on them, right? Why let them live? Just kill them. Some of you mentioned that, and we talked about it in government one day, where you said, why waste the drugs on them if we know they're going to die soon? If the baby boomer generation has taught you anything, it's that they don't die very quickly, right? Because of better medicine. They're living longer. But with the functional definition, you view life that way. You view value that way. We attack racism, we attack sexism, rightfully so, but we don't really realize that they are byproducts of grounding our identity and our value in function, ability, and achievement. Is it any wonder why gender swapping is a thing? I mean, is it any wonder why the eugenics movement still persists? If you're going to deny the existence of God, you don't have another option. There is no ontological category for you. You can't define yourself based off your essence because God's not there. So you're stuck with that type of living. If you define yourself functionally, you're never going to have a life of purpose. You're never going to have a life of meaning. You won't have happiness. Sure, you might have a family. You might have a gnarly home with a basement. Right? You might have a lot of money and an awesome pack of dogs or alpacas chasing you. But you're still going to find yourself wanting. And your life is going to be coated in resignation and depression. And that's all because, to quote Augustine for a second, it's because those who find their joys and identity in things outside easily become vain. And they waste themselves on things seen and temporal. And with their minds and their hearts starving, they go licking at shadows. And it's quite the picture. I've seen my dogs lick the air. I've seen them lick my couches. They look stupid, right? But that's the works-based functional definition. What they value is quality of life, not sanctity of life. And quality can't even be measured materialistically, and can't be measured by a fallen man in a fallen world. The world strives for a life of unchanging quality in a changing world with changing standards. It advocates for personal fulfillment through personal means. It seeks to possess things so badly that it ends up becoming possessed by them. It wants to achieve selflessness through selfishness, and it fails. It refuses to look at itself, and so it stands in the way. It forgets that function flows from essence, that quality is a byproduct of our sanctity, and that both are given to us by God. Our identity in Christ provides purpose and meaning because our God is unchanging. He's eternal. We have eternal value in all circumstances, no matter what happens. Whether you're poor, divorced, handicapped, all of you have intrinsic worth and dignity. It can't be taken away. Everyone is in the image of God, and that should compel all of us to love and compassion. We mustn't see man according to the worldly disposition. In Corinthians it says, don't view man katasarkon, according to the flesh, because it doesn't tell the whole story of their identity. It's very misleading. But we've become so jaded when it comes to people. We see them every day and interact with them every day, but we do so with deadened eyes and hearts. And they're images of God. They're the most magnificent thing in creation, and yet we pay them no mind. We walk amongst the mortals and give them no second glance. As some of you know, because of my epilepsy, I don't remember anything before college. And even the past 10 years are spotty because of the seizures I had over Christmas break. But despite that, I do remember a particular day in my college mythology class. It was a large class, several hundred kids. Like a good Baptist, I'm sitting there in the back of the room, waiting for everybody to filter in. And I was looking at them, watching them, and then all of a sudden, nothing really prompted it, but all of a sudden I started to see them, not just look at them. I saw their value, their worth, their dignity, despite their actions, despite their choices, despite their desires. Even though that guy was drunk and it's not even 10 o'clock, right? He's doing a little mini Dean Martin. Even though that's happening, he still has value and worth. I saw it. I felt it. It's a strange experience to really describe because there's not adequate words to explain it to you. But I saw them all as individuals, not as a mass. I saw them all as created images. And I remember saying to myself, sitting there, that person was created by God in that way for His glory. He chose to make them look like that. Sometimes that can be off-putting, right? He chose to make them sound like that. God created that person because He wanted to, not because He needed to. He has no needs, right? He wanted them. He desired them for His glory. Do you know what that does to your life? How you think about people, how you live, how you think about yourself, because oftentimes that's the hardest person to see in that reflection. It's pretty radical, and clearly not even seizures can stop that. Hallelujah, right? And that's true freedom though, right? Because when you're so overwhelmed by the world and the grandeur of God, you become drawn outside of yourself. True freedom removes your pride. It bends the knee and it instills wonder and joy and love like you've never felt or known before. We live in these little pathetic glass houses that have to be shattered. They need to be shattered. We need to stop holding on tight to a world that's gone astray and stop wasting our time, because time's going to waste us, and it's going to charge you for years you can't pay. History shows us the rise and falls of empires. It shows us revolutions and counter-revolutions, wealth accumulated and wealth distributed, and age after age, ruler after ruler, all return to dust. All are gone with the wind, and standing resolute behind and above those crumbling idols is the figure of one man, by whom, because of whom, in whom, and through whom mankind may yet still live. Life is found in nothing else but God. Nothing is more important than God. Nothing matters except God. As it says in Hebrews 4, it is God with whom we have to do. Defining yourself according to what you've done, according to the college you go to, according to the job you have, or the family you have, or your intellect, makes you an insular person. It makes you cynical, it makes you selfish. It makes your world collapse in upon itself until it just crumbles up into dust. But the moment you place all your desires and accomplishments and relationships in the work of Christ, that's the moment you can do nothing but live with utter joy. Reckless abandon, reckless play. There's so much fun, right? There's so much freedom there. As a result, your work evolves, it changes, your desires evolve, your achievements evolve. To have your desires fulfilled, to have a good life, is to know your identity in God. An identity that's found in the person of Christ and no one else. An identity found in the work of Christ and nothing else. That's when life begins. At this point in time, there's a step change that takes place in your life. Now, another one takes place after you graduate college, but that's a little bit more subtle. But tonight is typically what most people consider to be the beginning of your life proper, right? Because before you're just kids, right? They're nothing. But your life's never going to begin unless you first understand your identity in Christ. Otherwise, you're wasting your life. It's nothing more than a pathetic joke, kind of like France, right? You don't want that. France is bad. All of us, though, whether saved or not, we all know that nagging, pulling feeling that's just back in our minds. It drives us to find a dream that words can't really define, but we try to define it, and we try to achieve it, and we can't. Whoever desires to love life and see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. It's 1 Peter 3. Your life can be great, and it will be great so long as you behold and seek and cling to the image you reflect. Seek him, he who spoke and it was, he who breathed and it lived, he who said it is finished and death died. Obedience is a way of hearing, and it begins with trust. You gotta trust God. He wants more for you than you do. He wants you to have a greater life than you do. It may not be the life you want, but it's going to be the greatest life you could ever have. It will have purpose, it will have meaning, it will have love, it will have happiness and joy. Think about what Jesus said. I am the way, the truth, and the life. The life is life. See it in your eyes. You want it. You want it in German too. Ich bin der Weg und die Wahrheit und das Leben. He's the life, folks. What else is there? I mean, that doesn't get you excited, but we know where you're going. Sorry. I mean, do you think, if he is the life, do you think Jesus' life lacked purpose, meaning, joy, happiness? No. To quote Rowan and Martin, you bet your sweet bit you didn't. It had all of those things. It wasn't easy. Life's not going to be easy, right? That's going to be the best thing you have if you root yourself in God. I was promised, strangely enough, as if this isn't really me saying goodbye, I was promised to say the words goodbye. So this is my final farewell to you guys, my last goodbye. Some of you I have known for only a year or two. Most of you I've known since 9th grade. Some of you ate lunch with me for 4 years every single day. And some of you I have seen more than my family in that period of time. But all of you have made my life better, and I appreciate it. Now, statistically, I'm not going to see you again before I die. So, travel safe and have fun. I appreciate the memories. I have a seizure. In which case, those memories are dead. They're all dead to me. But before I start seizing the day, I do love you, and Godspeed, and I have to take the coconut away because you're gone, so it's gone. So I'm just going to toss it to Reese.